Listen carefully. The real test doesn't happen when she challenges your words. It happens when she watches your reaction and decides, in a single, silent moment, whether you're the man she can trust or the man she will eventually walk away from. This is the part most men never understand. A woman's test is not random, emotional, or dramatic. It is psychological, instinctive, unconscious, and it reveals more about you than anything you try to show her. It begins in moments so small, you almost dismiss them. A shift in her tone, a question that feels sharper than it should, a pause that lingers long enough for your heart to tighten. She isn't testing what you say. She's testing what you are under pressure. She wants to feel your emotional gravity, your steadiness, your ability to stay grounded when her energy becomes uncertain. Because words can lie, posture can fake confidence, but your reactions, they expose everything. And here's the truth behind these trials. Women test when they're drawn to you, not when they're done with you. They test because something inside them needs to confirm that the man they're letting into their world can handle their emotions, their intensity, their doubt, their fear. She's not looking for perfection. She's looking for presence. In this video, we're going to uncover exactly why women test, what they're trying to feel, and the hidden psychology behind the trials most men fail without ever knowing it. Once you understand this truth, you stop fearing her tests and start mastering them. Every test begins long before you notice it. It doesn't appear in a dramatic argument or a sudden shift in her behavior. It begins quietly, almost invisibly, in the small spaces of connection where she starts paying closer attention to the way your energy moves. Women feel truth before they hear it, and the moment she senses something in you that doesn't fully align, something uncertain, something shaken, something not yet solid, her instinct activates. Not to punish you, but to scan you, to see who you become when pressure touches the edges of your confidence. It often starts in a moment you would never suspect. A simple question, a playful tease, a tone slightly sharper than usual, something so minor that you almost brush it off. But she's not watching the words, you are. She's watching the reaction, the micro shift in your posture, the slight change in your breathing, the hesitation in your eyes. She's not reading what you say. She's reading what slips through the cracks. Because in her psychology, a test is never about the scenario happening in front of you. It's about the version of you that appears behind it. She wants to see if your confidence is real or borrowed, if your calm is practiced or authentic, if your boundaries are lived or merely spoken. And she doesn't need hours to figure it out. She needs seconds, one moment, one glance, one flicker of energy strong enough to reveal or expose the man you are beneath the image you present. You feel it before you understand it, a tension under your ribcage, a silence that makes you second-guess yourself, a pressure that wasn't there a moment ago. And while you may assume she's being emotional or difficult, in truth, she's acting on something deeper, a biological instinct shaped to sense stability long before logic can confirm it. The test truly begins not when she pushes you, but when you notice yourself shifting in response, when your voice adjusts to her tone instead of remaining steady, when your mood reacts to hers instead of staying grounded, when you start worrying about saying the right thing instead of simply being yourself. These subtle fractures reveal more to her than any grand mistake ever could. Because the first phase of any test isn't about conflict, it's about contrast. The contrast between the man you claim to be and the man who shows up the moment her energy tilts. And once she sees the gap, no matter how small, it becomes the doorway into everything that comes next. A woman's test is never random. It is triggered by specific signals, small shifts in your energy that her intuition picks up long before you do. Women feel emotional instability the way animals sense an approaching storm, not through logic, but through instinct. And the first trigger always comes from one place, your inconsistency. Not inconsistency in what you say or do, but inconsistency in who you are from moment to moment. The slight drop in confidence, the hesitation when she asks something simple, the tension in your body when you feel unsure. These tiny fluctuations may feel invisible to you, but to her, they are seismic. The second trigger appears when she senses that your emotional state is being influenced by her too easily. When your mood shifts depending on her tone, her attention, or her approval, something inside her reacts. Not because she wants control, but because she wants to know if you can hold your center when she tests the edges of it. A man who loses himself in her reactions feels unreliable to her instinct, and that instinct immediately decorates the foundation of desire with caution. Then comes the most powerful trigger of all, the moment she senses you've started placing her above your own internal direction. It's subtle at first. You cancel something important to see her. You answer immediately even when you're busy. You adjust your tone depending on her energy. You smile when you're frustrated. You apologize out of fear, not integrity. She doesn't see these as acts of love. She sees them as hints that your sense of self is bending too easily. When she feels these triggers, the test intensifies, not because she wants to break you, but because she wants to confirm what she fears, that the man in front of her might be slipping away from the grounded presence she was initially drawn to. Women don't test strength, they test stability, because stability is what allows them to feel safe enough to open their heart without reservation. And here lies the irony. The more she values you, the more she tests you. Not to challenge your worth, but to feel the truth of it. There is a turning point in every connection where her tests shift from subtle to serious, from instinctive to consequential. It's the moment she senses something far more important than confidence, the stability of her respect for you. Respect is the backbone of desire. It is the silent structure that holds the entire dynamic together. And when it begins to shake, even slightly, her psychology reacts instantly. It starts when she notices you flinch in situations where the man she believed you were would have stayed firm. Maybe it's the way you backpedal when she challenges you. Maybe it's the way you soften your voice too much when she raises hers. Maybe it's the way you avoid uncomfortable truths to keep the atmosphere peaceful. These seem small, but to her, they signal a shift, a loss of solidity, a collapse in the presence she once trusted. Then she senses you adjusting yourself to maintain harmony rather than holding your boundaries. She sees the smile you give even when you're frustrated. She hears the apology you offer even when you didn't do anything wrong. She feels the hesitation in your decisions when you look at her first instead of trusting your own direction. Respect erodes not because you changed dramatically, but because you changed subtly, in the places only a woman's intuition can detect. When respect begins to wobble, her tests intensify not out of malice, but out of self-protection. She needs to know whether this shift is temporary or permanent. She pushes harder, not because she wants to dominate you, but because she wants to see if the strength she once admired is still alive beneath your fear. Her instinct tells her that if she senses instability now, it will be 10 times worse when life becomes difficult. She tests to protect her future, not to damage the present. And the moment this respect fracture appears, every test carries more weight. She watches you more closely. She listens not to your words, but to the truth your behavior reveals under tension. A woman does not pull away because of flaws. She pulls away because she no longer recognizes the man she was willing to invest in. This is where tests become real. This is where outcomes shift. This is where everything begins to tip. When respect begins to tremble, her tests stop sounding like questions and start sounding like silence. This is the phase most men misunderstand, because silence from a woman does not mean calm. It means calculation. It means she has stepped back into herself to evaluate the emotional truth she no longer feels safe expressing directly. Silence is her deepest form of communication, because silence gives her the space to see you without distraction, without charm, without excuses, just the raw impact of your presence. You feel it immediately. The warmth fades. The conversation shortens. Her replies lose their softness, not because she's angry, but because her mind has shifted into observation. She's watching not what you say, but what you become when she withdraws her emotional engagement. Silence is her microscope. It magnifies your insecurity, your steadiness, your impatience, your self-control. It's in that silence where a man either rises or collapses. And this is where so many men fail the test without knowing it. They rush to fill the silence with explanations, justifications, confessions. They chase her validation thinking it will close the gap, not realizing the gap isn't physical, it's psychological. Every frantic text, every overthought message, every attempt to regain closeness only reinforces the very fear she's trying to measure. The fear that you're not grounded enough to hold yourself when pressure hits. But silence isn't only a test, it's a mirror. It reveals how much of your identity was dependent on her attention. It reveals the parts of you that unravel without reassurance. It reveals how quickly your confidence collapses when she steps out of reach and she watches closely, not out of cruelty, but because your reaction to distance tells her more about your emotional stability than anything you say in moments of comfort. If you remain centered, if your energy stays calm, your posture stays grounded, your presence stays steady, her silence doesn't push her away, it draws her back. Because a woman's silence is never meant to destroy you. It is meant to reveal whether you can stand on your own 2 feet when her emotional warmth is no longer holding you up. Silence isn't rejection. Silence is revelation. And what it reveals determines everything that comes next. The moment her silence stretches, something heavier awakens inside you. It's not just fear of losing her, it's fear of losing the version of yourself you believed she saw. You feel your confidence slipping through your fingers, not because she walked away, but because the ground you were standing on no longer feels stable. And in that instability, men make their most fatal mistake. They stop responding as themselves and start responding as the man they think she wants. You start adjusting your tone, softening your opinions, second-guessing every message, analyzing every pause. Each reaction becomes a performance rather than an expression of who you truly are. You feel yourself bending, shrinking, negotiating your identity in tiny, almost invisible ways, hoping these small sacrifices will pull her back. But every time you fold to avoid losing her, you lose something far more important. You lose your center. That's when the collapse begins. Not in loud moments of desperation, but in quiet ones, where your sense of self disconnects from your actions. You apologize when you're not wrong. You over-explain when nothing needs explaining. You let your boundaries blur because you're terrified that holding them will push her further away. And she feels every one of these shifts with perfect clarity, because a woman's intuition is calibrated to sense the exact moment a man begins betraying himself. But here is the cruel irony. The more you contort yourself to keep her close, the more she feels pressured to step away. Not out of cruelty, but because your emotional dependence becomes weight she cannot carry. She didn't want control, she wanted steadiness. She didn't want dominance, she wanted direction. And the moment she feels responsible for your stability, the dynamic flips into something she cannot desire. Your collapse doesn't make her pull away. It confirms why she was testing you in the first place. Not to see if you were perfect, but to see if you could remain yourself when everything inside you began to shake. But every collapse carries within it the seed of reversal. The moment when you finally realize that chasing her, proving yourself, and reshaping your identity only pulls you further from the man she was testing for in the first place. And it's in that moment of quiet recognition, when the exhaustion of trying to be enough finally breaks, that something powerful begins to shift inside you. You stop fighting for the version of her you're afraid to lose, and start fighting for the version of yourself you can no longer afford to abandon. It doesn't happen with a dramatic speech or a sudden surge of confidence. It happens in a single, subtle moment of honesty, when you decide to stand in your own truth again, even if it means standing alone. You stop overthinking your responses. You stop chasing her silence. You stop treating her mood as your responsibility. Instead, you move slower, speak clearer, breathe deeper, and let your presence fill the space that your fear once occupied. And for the first time in a long time, your energy stabilizes. She feels it before you do, in the stillness of your posture, in the steadiness of your voice, in the calm that replaces your urgency. Women sense strength not from what a man tries to project, but from what he no longer needs to prove. And when she feels that shift, when she senses that you have returned to the center she feared you lost, her tests begin to dissolve, not because she stopped caring, but because she finally feels safe again. This is the reversal. The moment the dynamic flips not through force, but through gravity. The moment your presence becomes the anchor she can lean into instead of the weight she must carry. And as the tension between you softens, she begins to respond differently. Not because you passed a test, but because your stability made the test irrelevant. Her tone warms, her body language relaxes, her guard lowers in ways words can't describe. Not because you won her back, but because you won yourself back. In the end, her tests were never designed to break you. They were designed to reveal the man who wouldn't break. In the end, a woman's tests were never meant to destroy you. They were meant to reveal you. They exposed the parts of yourself you ignored, the insecurities you hid, the confidence you borrowed instead of built. And once you see that clearly, the fear fades. You stop treating her reactions like threats and start treating them like signals. Signals showing you where to strengthen, where to stand firmer, where to return to the man you drifted away from. Because the truth is simple. She wasn't testing your worth. She was testing your steadiness. She wanted to feel the presence of a man who doesn't collapse when pressure rises, who doesn't lose himself when emotions shift, who doesn't abandon his center just to keep her close. And the moment you rise from that understanding, everything changes. The panic quiets. The overthinking dies. Your sense of self becomes heavier, clearer, grounded. You move differently, not to impress her, but because you've reclaimed the parts of you that were never meant to be negotiated. She feels it instantly. Women always do. When a man returns to himself, the dynamic resets without a single word spoken. So if you're ready to keep going, ready to understand the deeper layers of masculine strength, emotional control, and the psychology that shapes attraction, then stay with me. The next video will take you further into the truths that transform the way you meet pressure, power, and connection. And once you learn them, you won't just pass her tests, you'll outgrow the version of yourself that feared them.